Friends and family, thank you for joining me here at the American News Network with Chris Sanders as we send our Navy down to Venezuela, and it looks like we're making nuclear threats. And is this really about cartels in Venezuela? Because I thought the cartels were in Colombia and in Mexico, and it seems like when we built up 7 bases around Colombia, simultaneously the cocaine fields started to grow around them immensely, and then they're somehow tied into U.S. banks. I want to remind everybody, news intel today, 2,200 new drones were delivered to Venezuela, fresh from Vladimir Putin to Maduro. We also have China encroaching in. Why? Why are they so interested in Maduro? Well, the answer, and I'm proud to bring it to you because I am Drill Baby Drill for America and Sanders Oil and Gas. The answer is because of oil. We have huge discoveries. If you really want to remember, we did the discovery in Venezuela. It went to Chavez, went to Maduro, and right next to Venezuela, we have Guyana. And Guyana's had a major discovery. And also Suriname and Guyana, French Guyana, all those areas there, we have major discoveries in oil and gas. In America also, we have some tragedies that have hit us. I'm going to discuss not only should transgender men not be allowed to compete with women, but let's identify them as mentally ill. And we need to address society and safety in society, and who is our most volatile, mentally ill group in America? Should they be allowed to go into women's bathrooms or even hold guns? And I say that today because we have a man by the name of Robert who identifies as Robin, and he killed 2 kids and injured 10 others in Minnesota. We'll talk about that. The war in the Ukraine is basically over. We have Venezuela starting. I think it's starting because we failed to finish and make a negotiation with the people of Ukraine. So this is the people in Kiev right now. They are sleeping today in the Ukrainian metro, and Russia is pounding Kiev as we speak. Dozens of people are wounded, and that is going on. And we're going, it seems like, most definitely into a world war. We have Turkey uniting with 57 Muslim countries against Israel as we follow a pathway of peace behind Benjamin Netanyahu, a war criminal, who owes $5.3 billion to the Israeli government and is definitely the jackwagon Joe Biden of Israel. So as we study the Bible throughout history, we see Israel falls when they stray from God, and the synagogue of Satan today has definitely done that. As far as what are we doing? Well, this is how we're helping the people of the Ukraine today. We have about 1.8 million people that have been genocided and killed because of our involvement. We can talk about borders. We can talk about their border. We can talk about our border. But the can't states, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, we can't do our job. But there's a biblical verse. Why are we so concerned about the splinter in our brother's eye when there's a plank in our own eye? Why are we so concerned with the border in the Ukraine when the border that we have with Mexico is equally as horrible? And Mexico is run by the cartel, and for the first time, Scheinbaum, Mexico is not run by a Mexican man. No, my brothers, mis hermanos. Mexico is run by a Jewish woman. And so now we have Putin communicating with China with her. And they might stick nuclear bombs in our backyard with them in Nicaragua, but I want you to know that that synagogue is far-reaching, even including into Mexico today. So Mexico is not held by Mexico. It is in fact held by Israel. And we need to examine all the judges that have attacked Trump from that same synagogue. Now, as far as the safety of Zelensky today, well, this is what Putin is giving him. So as we're negotiating, I want you to understand. Russia bombards Kiev with hypersonic missiles. And the more we threaten Vladimir Putin, the more he demonstrates not with words. He shows us that actions speak louder than words, as Russia launched a massive overnight aerial assault on Kiev and other cities, far and from the front lines, using hypersonic Kinzhal missiles and waves of drones. These are the same drones that he just gave to Venezuela. I had to actually do a parameter check to see if these drones could hit America. Thank God they can't. They can go 1,200 miles. And so all of the figures are always in kilometers, so I had to do a radius and really get down to this, but we are basically 120, 160 miles off from these 2,200 drones hitting Florida. And I want you to know that. And that's what was gifted. We don't know how they were delivered. Intel doesn't tell us, but I'm going to suggest it was China. China is also working. It's their vested interest to safeguard and to meddle in our backyard. Trump, you move that Navy in there, and then you do a right turn. You go into the Panama Canal, and you tell Xi Jinping, I think we need to safeguard BlackRock and Vanguard and Smart Street since they were kicked out of Texas. And you know what? We don't need your competition here. I think that data centers should be done by the Texas energy operators in tandem with the Railroad Commission, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, as we dismantle the EPA. But we need to have an alliance where natural gas operators are truly producing the crypto energy that America demands. And that is the cleanest, most effective way that we can make electricity for the United States and employ everybody in every single state in our great country. So we need to do that, and we got to understand that this war is about natural gas. There's been a pipeline going through Kiev. There's been pipelines, Nord Stream pipelines, and all these other ones. And as we think it's just a war, there's really natural gas and oil flowing back and forth as the people are used as cannon fodder. So I say that as we go down into Venezuela, saying that there's cartels. I think that's nonsense. Venezuela did not flood us with cartels. They flooded us with convicted criminals. And that's a shame, because then we tend to judge the great people of Venezuela as thieves when they're not thieves. Their country unloaded thieves upon us. As far as the cartels, those are from Colombia and Mexico. And I suggest we use our military to dish that out. Now, as far as the cartels, as far as the war on drugs is a war on us, and that needs to end, period. If we're a free country, let people do to themselves what they want to in the name of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If something is a recreational drug, then to me that word recreation means life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So how can recreation become illegal, and how could God be judged for a flower? And what's more important, we're throwing monkeys in prison because of flowers. I could say that in another way. As police examine online videos, this is the manifesto of a very mentally ill boy named Robert Westman. And in 2019, Robert Westman was so mentally ill, he believed, because of Jackwagon Joe and how unstable our country was, he was brainwashed into believing that he was a girl. And oh yeah, he was sold that idea, and he wanted other people to believe that idea, and no matter where he went, People just didn't buy it. People just didn't believe it, and it upset him so much he had to leave, and he couldn't just leave. He wanted to take Christian children with him, and he hated everybody. He hated Zionists, I wonder why. And he blamed people of faith. But who sold you this idea of changing yourself? You see, I think that came from the Zionists. It definitely didn't come from the Christians. It definitely didn't come from the Muslims. Because, see, a Christian and even the Muslims, they fear God. They wouldn't dare tell God that he did a bad job, because that's the definition of blasphemy itself. Even the war on drugs, to judge a flower, you're telling God that he did a bad job, and that's blasphemy. But so for the people that live blasphemous, for the people that say that God did a bad job and I'm not a man, but yet I'm a woman, and a woman, no, I'm a man, and you want to defy God and how he created you, and that is an ultimate sin. And for those out there that think that perhaps you weren't a good creation, think again. Because maybe you do have weaknesses, but those weaknesses are definitely strengths, and I wish this child would have known that. Maybe he wasn't so masculine, but I doubt that Tommy Hilfiger and Ralph Lauren are either. But we all have a place, and I think that's what makes us the body of Christ. And through our weaknesses, our gifts, or differences, we're wonderful, and I want you to know that. Anyway, it's a shame that sometimes we're not embraced for our differences or respected for those things. And so I want to pray for everybody that's maybe not noticed for the beauty that they have. And as far as everybody in the situation that we fight and that we face. So missiles are hammering, and we have the people in the Ukraine that are underneath the bridge. We're after cartels, but we're after them in the wrong country. This reminds me of when we went to Iraq, when the culprits supposedly were from Saudi Arabia and Egypt, but the man that made money off the whole deal was from Israel. But this is the culprit. And I want to help, and I want to do it in a different way. You see, I know that we share a similarity with everybody in Venezuela, and Suriname, and French Guyana, and Brazil. And I know that we share more in common with all of them than we even do with the Middle East. And we do through Jesus Christ. So if we have the same faith, why are we fighting a war? This is the most ridiculous, preposterous thing I've even ever seen. You see, this is what I mean by Christ is one. And love begets love. So I think we need to load up a lot of ships with food and say, give us your leader peacefully. Let's put a star on you, and let's harvest your oil. Let's feed your country. Let's, instead of blowing you up like we did with Iraq, let's rebuild your roads, and let's build those institutions in your own country. And we can do this, we can do better. I've got some facts and figures I wanted you to know and hear about. And they're pretty interesting. It was like Trump's wanting 600,000 Chinese foreign exchange students in the United States. And he's mulling over this now while we have 300,000 Chinese exchange students here now. And, it's in the 200,000s. Same thing with India. And so I was adding up India and China, and that's almost 500,000. But the whole figures were much more scary, 1.58 million foreign exchange students in America. So every 4 years, we're matriculating, in my opinion, about 6 million foreigners. And, oh, that's a big business. And I'm telling you, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. We got to stop that. Well, Chris, we need to educate them Chinese Americans or you're being a racist. Well, yes, but what about the Chinese Texans that we have? I've seen a lot of those lately. Oh, they don't count? Oh, okay. Well, you know what? You can't deny Africa. Well, you know what? Last I checked in downtown Dallas when I went to Oak Cliff, if you opened your eyes, you'd have thought that you're probably in Africa yourself. In fact, I think we have every race here in America. And I think we have every country here. And when I pay my taxes, I think I speak for the African Americans, the Asian Americans, and the people that hold our passport that we would rather pay for the education of an American child with our tax money than to have it go to some foreigner. Oh, but Chris, we need to educate these foreign people. Oh, says who? Because in my Constitution, it says general welfare and posterity, and in that posterity, it means you're promising something different and better to my children and my neighbor's children, and you're violating that. So our politicians are violating general welfare. They're violating posterity, and these are the rights that give them the privileges to sway their rules over you and I here in the United States. So they're violating our Constitution. And I want you to know that. We're 4.8% of the world's population, but yet 25% of the prisoners of the world live here. Shouldn't 4.8% of the population of prisoners live here? So that would be like as if we're a normal country. And shouldn't we have less than that if we're land of the free? But how can the land of the free have 5 times the amount of prisoners in it than any other country in the world? Oh, but we have a war on plants. Well, didn't God create the plants? Yes, but this war on plants is important. It's so important that you're thinking that they're more important than the pedophiles. Well, I get it, because you're having the pedophiles run the country, so it seems. Now, as Ghislaine Maxwell sits in a prison, we're supposed to believe that Jeffrey Epstein was somehow murdered in a jail, but as I see the comments, we all know that he was a Mossad extraction from a jail. We all know that Jeffrey Epstein Island was so that they could pin the tail on the donkey and so that Israel could collect all the information on all of these pedophile politicians so that they can get away with murder. But it's not that. It's something else according to the children of Gaza. And we're really not fighting over anything. And I'm telling you, is it the cartels? Or is it the oil? I would like to say the oil cartel, but we got to rebuild our country and we got to rebuild our currency. Right now I've got over $10 trillion from other countries trying to get to us to re-stimulate the United States economy. What if I was to tell you that Chase Bank is holding back money? They've been doing it for 60 days. Why are they doing it? They're making money off the interest, and the broke country of Israel is surviving off that interest, off the backs of Americans, so that we can't drill to kingdom come. And that's really something happening right now. And you might have heard it. I let some people hear that. You can post that if you want to say that you heard a little bit of my discussion. But we're able to put everybody to work, and our own banks are holding us back. So if they want to keep this up, we're going to devise something different, because their only other option is war. And you know, it's much more simple. They're like, Chris, we need you to drill down there in Guyana. And I'm like, you know what? How about Chase? How about you banks? Stop playing business. Or are you going to make it to where people like Brock Pierce and Joby Weeks and all those crypto billionaires are going to have to get together, get creative with Coinbase and Tether so that they can do fair international banking and trading. Because, you see, there is a synagogue that controls the banking, I've discovered, and it's making it to where I can't employ thousands of people, and I want you to know that. Oh, but Chris, I'm seeing you here and I'm saying, well, how come this is the only show without a commercial? How come this is the only show that has an alliance of veterans and grandmothers and grandfathers that share this show with no commercials so that we can get the word out of truth? You see, because everybody else is not surviving on the truth. So we had massive dust storms go through the first couple of days out there in Burning Man, but last night and tonight was a pretty good occasion, and hopefully most people will make it home safely. But it seems like the party has moved from Vegas to the desert, because a $20 cup of coffee is just not the American way. And I guess the strip club has changed, and why pay for it if you can just throw some neon lights on yourself and go around in circles and visit the Pleiades? But what has happened to America and our way of life, and now Americans that are truly here from home have defined that way of life at Sturgis. They've got to get on their Harley Davidson and move all the way and find their clan of Americans in the middle of nowhere. And we find these places in the middle of nowhere like Sturgis, South Dakota. We find these places in the middle of nowhere like Burning Man. And that's what makes us American. And sure, we have recreational times, but it's time for us to put on these new clothes to avoid these wars. And I want us to pray for people that are facing these fires. Now, this is something that I think is really special, and I'm very happy about it. This is the hardcover book of The Emperor Wears No Clothes by Christopher Sanders, yours truly. And it's 515 pages. It is basically a thick college textbook, as you can see. And I will teach you how to turn your air conditioning system into a water source. Air to water, sustainable integration. Also, it has in the end all the plants that you need to fight cancer, and healing herbs, ways in which you can clean yourself from parasites. And it includes my journey until I wrote with the golf cart pencil something that Kamala Harris noticed. And then it set a whole bunch of guys like me free that were in a situation because we view plants and flowers as something that should be enjoyed by everybody, especially if they're created by God. And a dear friend of mine named Jack Harrer and I felt very strongly about this cause as we fight the forces of darkness that don't understand the light. And just remember that, because they want to sell you a pill instead of have you understand the beauty of a plant. And right now, we have 19 states that are, to me, looking like posse comitatus, martial law. I say this because the National Guard is out. We're also getting ready to fight Iran with Israel as 57 Arab nations form a coalition in a war against us. We're sending our troops and our Navy down to Venezuela as North Korea and China and Russia arm Venezuela so that they can defend themselves against us. And I think it's odd because the people of Venezuela have way more in common with the people of the United States than they do with the people of China, because we share the same faith. There's a verse. Disciples came back. Oh, good teacher, they were saying and preaching the name, but doing it just a little bit differently than we were. And it's kind of like saying the difference between the Protestants and the Catholics. And it's like the semantics between the Episcopals and the Baptists. But as long as we're serving the same Lord, the same Master, the same Yeshua, Daud, as long as we are serving that cornerstone that was rejected, and we share that faith in Jesus Christ together, don't let our leaders tear us apart or separate the love that we share ever. And that's my prayer for all of us to remember, because we don't have any anger to Venezuela. That's just the truth. If there is a war, I can see it from Israel to Turkey to Saudi to Egypt, because they've had that war for thousands of years. But let them keep that in their house, because they reject that stone and that foundation that we're built on here in America. And it's called love, and it's a rock, and that's because our foundation is Christ. Please like, subscribe, and spread the message of love. Don't buy into hate. I think we're on the right track here. I think that our Navy's moving down there to apprehend oil because Venezuela and China want to take over northern South America. And if we're playing our chess game correctly, well, that's drill baby drill territory in the southern part of the Gulf of America. My name's Chris Sanders, and these are facts. Thanks for joining me. Good day. Oh, and by the way, for those of you that don't know where to get the book, glad someone asked. You can buy this book, friends and family. This is The Emperor Wears No Clothes at Amazon. Just go to Amazon and type in The Emperor Wears New Clothes, Christopher Sanders. You can also get the New World Order Brotherhood. But as far as I'm concerned, this is just an excellent deal. I was amazed. $30 for the hardcover, $20 for the paperback. And if you ever just need sustainable freedom, well, this book will teach you how to be sustainable, and it'll also teach you how to plant some pretty good trees. God bless you. Good night, and amen.